Tā kina te au kāriri, tā kina te au kāngua, tā kina ngā au o te tonga, tā kina ngā au o te wanganui iatara. Nā tai eke ngā o tā uiri mātea, tā kina i arango te whenua. Korongo ki te waka tūpua, korongo ki te waka tāuito, e rū i te one i uta, e rū i te one i tai, e rū i arangi nui e tū nei, e rū i a papatu ānuku e takoto nei, e rū i a tangaroa. Pue u te one pākini te one ko te one itua kamakawarua, karanga tupua, karanga tāuito ki tona waka māroro au. He toka au mi i aroa, he toka mau mi i rongo mau. Kia mako ai te hau riri, kia mako ai te hau ngua. Heke heke iho i te rangi kātutu a niwa niwa ngā au oro kiwa o i te hau pāmaiwa o ngā au riri ki te au mārino o te wanganui iatara. I te au, i te pō, i te au, i te pō, hau, hau, hau a whio whio, hau, hau, hau mā takataka, hau, hau, no te ora o tō tātou iwi o te atiawa nui tonu ki te upoko o te ika Māui, hau, hau, ki te wanganui iatara ki tā kinai. E rongo, whakairihi ake ki runga, turu turu o iti waka maua kia tīna, uie tāiki e. Ai, nei mātou ko te atiawa nui tonu, nei mātou te hunga o te hau o te tonga, ka karanga atu rā ki ngā hau e toru, e rere kauana e tai mai ki konei, i roto i tō tātou whare piringa o tā kina. Tā kina mai, tā kina atu. Nō reira, i oku karangaranga, maha, nā karanga tahi rua toru whāpea, karanga mai, karanga atu, haere mai, kuhu mai, nau mai, piki mai. E tika ana te mihi ki tō tātou kui ni ngā waihono i te pō, te ariki nui, me tōna whare kāui ariki nui tonu. No reire e te kui ni e te whare kāui ariki nui tonu, tūtonu, moa ke tonu rā, nou te kororia, rire hau, pai marire. Piti atu rā, e tika ana ki te mihi, kia rātou kua hinga, nā rātou o te ao kohatu, pērai taua pau kuia o waiwhetū, ara ko neni hina tērā. Kua hinga aia, ko te wiki, kua pāhure ake nei, e maumaharana tia, te tahi uri o papa i haia puke tapu. No reira e te whaia, hoki mai anō ki tērā kāinga tūturu o tātou te tangata. O te anō rā ki ngā tine mate kei Wainganui a tātou i tēnei rā, haere hoki mai anō. Rātou ki a rātou tātou anō, kia tātou, ki te ao kiko nei. E te matua tākuta Saint Reti, tēnā anō rā koe, te rangatira o mani o poto hoki, e mihi kau ana ki a koe, tō tainga mai ki konei, me tō kāui e haruru mai nei. Ki ngā ringa ngā waiwai o e nei mahi papai, nei mātou o te atiaua, nāku te whiwhi tai mai ki te tautoko i e nei mahi papai. Ki ngā hunga o ngā whenua taketake, te hunga taketake e tai mai ki konei, nau mai piki mai ki Aotearoa, ki te wai paunamu, ki re kohu, ki ngā motu o te moana nui a kiwa, tēnei wahanga o te moana nei, haere mai, haere mai. Nā i runga e rā whakaaro pai o te aro ki te ha, haere mai, kuhu mai, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Tākina!
Tākina te au kariri, tākina te au ka ngua, tākina ngā au atatonga, tākina ngā au ho te Wanganui atara, nā tai eke ngā o tāwiri matea, tākina i a rango te wenua. Korongo ki te waka tipua, korongo ki te waka taui tō eru, i te one i uta eru, i te one i tai eru, i a ranginui e tu, ne eru, i a papa e takoto, ne heru, i a tangaroa. Pue u te one Pākini, te one ko te one i tua kamaka warua, karanga tupua, karanga taito ki tōna waka, maroro au. E toka au mi i aroa, e toka au mi i rongamau, ki a makoa i te hauriri, ki a makoa i te haungua, eke i ho i te rangi ka tutu, a niwa ngā au oro, ki wa o i te au pāmaiwa, ngā auriri ki te au marino o te Wanganui atara, i te au i te pō, i te au i te pō, hau a pio pio, hau mā takataka, no te aua o te ora, ki te Wanganui atara, ai! Turu o iti waka maua kia tīna, aumie uie, tai ki e. Ai, anei te tahi taonga o te atiaua he poi manu. E mea nei te taonga nunui, taonga roroa tō tātou wāhi nei, arā, ko te hau o te tonga tērā. Te hau mā takataka, the winds of the hurricanes welcome you here to Wellington today, my good friends, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Whānau, we would just like to say on behalf of Te Atiawa, first of all to our Minister, Dr. Shane Reti, welcome. It's good to see you again. The last event I saw you at was at Government House when I was trying to pronounce all the scientific Latin names for certain things that I couldn't keep up with. But it's good to see you and welcome to Tākina. And to our Indigenous people and the many people around the world that have gathered here to Tākina today, we, the iwi here, welcome you on what we call the symbol, the raukura, which is the albatross feather from Parihaka that symbolises love and compassion to all good people, goodwill to all humankind, no matter where you are from, who you are. We welcome you, we welcome you. Tākina, the name, means to engage. And today you are about to engage in your conference. And what you bring here today is your whare wānanga, your university of thoughts that you have collected through your lifetime. And today, here as a collective, we share our university of thoughts with each other in the conference and the theme that we have here today. To our people from the Indigenous tribes, welcome here to Wellington, known for the hurricanes and winds. That karakia and poimanu there just open up the sunshine for you, so you can thank us later when the sun comes out. So, nō reira we would like to pass it now to our Minister, I believe, to our rangatira here first. But we actually have to get going to another kaupapa, so we're very thankful. Thank you very much for everything. Have a great time. You can give us a clap if you like.
Kia ora katoa, ngā mihi Nate and ngā mihi Tyshah for that wonderful Mihi Whakatau, and your warm welcome to this place, your rohi in Te Whanganui Atara. Thanks so much, and we won't hold you up for your next your next appointment. So yeah, as Nate said, I know that Mihi Whakatau would have been really warmly welcomed and received by our visitors, especially our Indigenous visitors who have travelled a long way to be here. And they're on stage right now, some of them, and there will be a plenary session next, so that will be our Indigenous co-production. So we'll go straight into this after this opening ceremony. My name is Tim Naish. I am a professor in the Antarctic Research Centre here at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. And along with my colleague who's on stage, Lauren Vargo, we are the co-chairs of this organising committee. I'm also the chair of the World Climate Research Programme, so the WCRP, as we say. So we're the parent sponsoring this Climate and the Cryosphere project. So the CliC is the Climate and the Cryosphere project of the World Climate Research Programme. And one of our favourite children, we have many activities, but one of our favourite children is CliC. So nau mai, haere mai, and my warmest welcome to you all for this very timely and important conference as we seek to better understand the rapid changes that are occurring in the frozen regions of our planet and the implications for the future. So to officially open the conference, it gives me great pleasure to ask the New Zealand Minister for Science, Innovation and Technology, the Honourable Dr. Shane Reti, to come forward and say a few words. Minister, please.
Ngā mihi te rangi, ngā mihi te whenua, ngā mihi kia koutou, kia ora mai tātou. I greet the sky, I greet the earth, I greet all of you. Welcome. Ki te mana whenua a tēnā koutou. E hiko ana ki te tūtakitahi a koutou I tēnei rā. Tō rārea, ko tēnei taku mihi e tuku ana ki a koutou. Ko tēnei te mihi a Māori ora. To mana whenua, to the people of the earth, I greet you. Thank you for grounding us in this place and reminding us of our responsibilities as kaitiaki. I'd also like to acknowledge Professor Tim Naish. Thank you, Tim, for your introduction. Professor Bryony James, Professor Gary Wilson, and all distinguished delegates who have travelled from around the world to be here. Nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai, me te whanganui atara. Welcome to Wellington and welcome to New Zealand. Your conference comes at a pivotal time. Advances in cryosphere research are sharpening our understanding of the climate system, particularly in the Southern Hemisphere, while new technologies are transforming what researchers can observe, measure and model. For New Zealand, our interest in Antarctica stretches back to our founding signature, at least stretches back to our founding signature to the Antarctic Treaty System. For us, Antarctica is not remote. It is a close neighbour and a critical part of our climate system. Changes in Antarctic ice sheets influence sea levels, storm behaviour and long-term risk across our region. Closer to home, research on the Southern Alp glaciers is improving our understanding of water resources, ecosystems and energy security. The work represented here strengthens the global evidence base and directly informs long-term planning and resilience. I acknowledge the significant contribution each of you make through your fieldwork, modelling, innovation and international collaboration. Thank you. Today, I am pleased to announce a new international collaboration with partners in the United Arab Emirates, alongside a targeted $1 million increase to New Zealand's Antarctica Science Platform for 2026. This investment will support 2 new joint research projects with Khalifa University in the United Arab Emirates. Through this partnership, researchers will access complementary strengths, including shared satellite data streams and environmental sensing capabilities. The initial collaboration projects will focus on 1, storm dynamics and sea ice formation. integrating high-resolution modelling with new observation techniques to improve forecasting and understanding of how storm systems influence sea ice formation. And 2, tracking changes to ice shelves using autonomous underwater vehicles, deploying long-range AUVs and remote technologies to measure heat content and water mass exchange on the continental shelf, helping fill critical gaps for New Zealand. Now, this partnership strengthens our contributions to global climate and cryosphere science while building our capability in advanced remote technologies. The insights generated by cryosphere science are increasingly important for New Zealand and the world. Here in New Zealand, we face growing risks from floods, storms, and other natural hazards. In October, the government released New Zealand's first National Adaptation Framework, a long-term plan to help communities prepare for climate impacts. The framework includes practical steps such as developing a consistent national flood map so New Zealanders can access trusted information about their risk, and requiring adaptation plans in priority areas so councils can plan ahead for the next 30 years. Sound adaptation policy depends on robust science. The research and collaboration represented at this conference directly supports that work. To all delegates, thank you for your commitment to advancing understanding of our climate system. With the 2 new funded international Antarctic science collaborations in just over 60 days, the first being the first ever Memorandum of Cooperation with the United States at the end of last year, and this is now the second with the United Arab Emirates. In just over 60 days, you can see the importance New Zealand places on cryosphere research. I have urgency and have acted accordingly, and I hope you all share that urgency. Fundamentally, international science collaboration supported by innovation and technology is essential to building a resilient future. In closing, I wish you a productive and stimulating conference, and thank you for helping us build a better, safer world. It is now my pleasure to declare the Climate and Cryosphere Open Science Conference officially open. Ngā mihi kia koutou, a kia ora mai tātou.
Ngā mihi, Minister, and thank you for your comments. And very welcome funding announcement to Antarctic to support the Antarctic science community in this collaboration with the Emirates. The UAE are already involved in the World Climate Research Programme, and we have several colleagues at this conference from Khalifa University who I understand will also be involved in the new collaboration. So thank you again, Minister. Wonderful. I'm now going to switch hats and make a few short remarks on behalf of the World Climate Research Programme, the sponsor of this conference. And if I could have the video, please.
The climate is changing rapidly, and so is the world around us. Every day, hundreds of the world's leading climate experts work together through the World Climate Research Programme to deliver trusted scientific knowledge that supports climate policy, investment, and global resilience. WCRP is the world's leading international climate science initiative. Sponsored by the World Meteorological Organization, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, and the International Science Council. We unite 6 core projects and 6 lighthouse activities to answer fundamental climate science questions and provide robust climate information. We use emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence and machine learning, to produce state-of-the-art climate science information. This will prepare us for the future to dramatically reduce our emissions and help us to adapt to climate impacts we will be unable to avoid. We also advance capacity development through training schools, workshops, fellowships, and the WCRP Academy, supporting the next generation of climate scientists. Our science powers climate predictions, early warnings, and the knowledge that businesses, communities, and governments rely on. Investing in climate science is investing in stability, prosperity, security, and a better future for all. The future is not something we can wait for, but something we must prepare for now.
So that's hot off the press. That's one of our new short promotional videos that explains what we do. And I guess I I've had a change of heart on what I was going to say here today, because in an ideal world that is what we do, but I was going to have a speech that was all about talking about how unideal the world is right now. I had a speech written about changes in the changing world order, geopolitics, the loss of expertise and experts, and I was even going to dwell on the dire funding situation that climate science is facing. But I went to the icebreaker last night and I was reminded, it gave me a bit of an attitude adjustment, I was reminded how vibrant our community is. The enthusiasm and optimism for the work we do, which is so strong. And seeing so many early and mid-career researchers just reminds me how important our community is, and our community is alive and strong. Our science is not always uplifting because we get to see firsthand the dramatic state of the changes occurring in our climate system. Many of these are most obvious in the frozen regions of our planet, which are unfreezing at an alarming rate, and that's why we're all here. But our science also tells us there is still time to avoid the worst impacts. And at the World Climate Research Program, we want to be part of the solution, working with communities and society to make sure our knowledge helps build sustainable and safe futures. That is why these sort of conferences are so important. We have to get together face to face. And in this case, because of the situation playing out in our cryosphere right now, this conference is also very timely. So I've looked at the conference program and had a little bit to do with it, but a lot of other people did too, and it's really clear that this is going to be a stimulating and enjoyable meeting. We are 430 participants. We're scientists, we're educators, we're communicators, we're Indigenous knowledge holders, and we're end users. Many of you have travelled a very, very long way, and we really do appreciate that, but we're glad you now understand what it's like for us when we go north. No, we're not really pleased that you're suffering from jet lag. We also have more than 100 early career researchers, which is really fantastic, and we want this to be a safe place for them to build networks, share ideas, and upskill us older scientists on the latest thinking. There will also be lots of opportunity, as you will have seen in the program, for networking, some great social activities planned, side events, and we're off to a good start after last night's icebreaker. Now, even although I'm trying to be positive, the theme of this conference is unapologetically crisis in the cryosphere, because some of the most concerning changes due to global warming are playing out in the cryosphere, with consequences for billions of people, as we know, before the end of the century. The rapidly melting polar ice sheets and glaciers are rising sea levels that will impact 1 billion people. The loss of high mountain glaciers threatens another 2 billion people who rely on them for water and food security. Concern is growing about tipping points in the cryosphere, and the cryosphere has a number that could be triggered at 1.5 to 2 degrees of global warming, such as the irreversible loss of Greenland and the West Antarctic ice sheets, the loss of our mountain glaciers, the thawing of the Arctic permafrost. These tipping points could be triggered in the coming years to decades, depending on how we deal with our greenhouse gas emissions. And if that happens, they will leave unavoidable consequences for generations to come. So the decisions we make now very much determine the coming centuries and 1,000 years, millennia, we all know that. WCRP recently teamed up with the IPCC to run an expert meeting in Paris just before the first IPCC lead authors meeting, and that was to address tipping points. The IPCC recognises the importance of tipping points, so it has a chapter for the first time on it in their Working Group 1 report. And I just want to acknowledge the New Zealand Government for their support of that workshop, which wouldn't have happened without funding from the Ministry for the Environment. That's how tight things are these days. Every contribution actually makes the difference between some of this good work being done or not being done. So now, if we could just have the next slide, please. I would like to acknowledge and thank our partners and sponsors who have made this meeting possible. You can see there's a lot of them up there, all their logos are up there. I'm not going to go through them all one by one, but I would like To mention our 3 platinum sponsors, the World Climate Research Programme, of course, the CliC office in University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and the Antarctic Research Centre here at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria, University of Wellington, and the Scientific Committee on the Antarctic Research. So they're our big 3 sponsors. And I'm wrapping up now, and we'll hear from some of our co-sponsors in just a minute. But finally, on behalf of the Joint Scientific Committee of the World Climate Research Programme, I would like to congratulate CliC for their leadership, for putting this conference together, which is so important for our community, our science community, and our science going forward. So I wish you all the best for what I'm sure will be a rewarding, productive, and enjoyable conference. Thank you. So, now I'd like to invite to the stage, better get the order right, Professor Bryony James, Provost at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. Bryony is our local host and our financial underwriter. And it's going to be okay, Bryony. We're going to make a small profit. So, welcome. A few words.
Enga mana, enga reo, enga reo rangatira, o ngā hoe wha, tēnā koutou katoa. As Professor Naish said, I'm Bryony James. I'm the Provost at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington, and it's my great pleasure to welcome everyone here on behalf of us as co-sponsors. Thank you to Matu and Nate and Tyshah for that beautiful Mihi Whakatau and welcome. Many thanks to Minister Reti for his words and for officially opening the conference. And thank you to Tim, who's not only an exceptional scholar, but clearly a very accomplished MC. To the leaders of the Climate and Cryosphere Project, conference organisers, distinguished guests and delegates, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Victoria University of Wellington and the Antarctic Research Centre is very proud to be co-hosting this conference. I don't need to convince anyone in this room how essential it is for experts to come together to talk about climate and cryosphere research. As Tim mentioned, given how quickly and dramatically the frozen regions of our planet are responding to climate change, and we have approaching tipping points. These are already impacting us here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and particularly in our Pacific neighbours. Vic is a natural fit for this conference as sponsor, being home as we are to the Antarctic Research Centre, and I'd like to take just a moment to indulge myself and highlight some of the research and leadership of the ARC and its collaborators. Just this summer in Antarctica, an international team with members from the ARC, Earth Sciences New Zealand and Antarctica New Zealand was successful in recovering the longest cores to date from under a polar ice sheet. This was part of a research programme that aims to establish what will happen to the West Antarctic ice sheet if our global warming does indeed reach 2 degrees. The team will analyse an incredible 230 metres of sediment core that they extracted, and from that they will work out what our past has to tell us about our future. The project was only possible thanks to an $11.4 million partnership with the International Continental Drilling Programme, which involves 8 nations. And that exemplifies the collaborative nature of science. Here in New Zealand, it's essential for our Crown Research Institutes, or PROs as they are, such as Earth Sciences New Zealand, and our universities to work closely together. If we could choose to melt anything other than the ice caps, it should be the synthetic barriers we sometimes encounter between our research organisations. This conference is a fantastic example of how our work together is being directly used to help understand the impacts of climate change here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and around the world, and by decision makers who are using it to build resilience in communities. So I wish you all the best as you begin your conference, and I hope what you learn together helps us mitigate and adapt to the challenges of our future. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for those important words, Professor James. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Gary Wilson. He's a Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research at the University of Waikato, but today he is here in his role as President of the Scientific Committee of Antarctic Research. Gary is the first New Zealander to take that office as President in, I think, the 65 years of SCAR. And so it means he didn't have to come very far, so he was cheap to get here. But we're also very honoured to have him to say some words on behalf of a very important partner of CliC and the WCRP, which is the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research. So Gary, please.
Kia ora tātou. Welcome everyone, welcome to Wellington. Yes, cheap and also low carbon, just like to point out. When you look outside, I know that the welcome said the sun will come, but enjoy it today because it's Wellington. It's not always like this, despite what everyone says. Sorry, I had to say that, being from Hamilton. Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you, Minister, for your kind words and support this morning. Look, SCAR is very pleased to be co-sponsoring the CliC Open Science Conference. This is very timely, although, as Tim already pointed out, it would have been very timely 20 years ago as well, but it is certainly very timely now and important that we understand our future challenges with respect to global climate. I want to just take a moment to point out a few things about SCAR that some of you know, some of you won't know, but we are very aligned on this very topic that you are grappling with over the next few days. Our strategic plan is focused on urgent messages from the South, and it recognises the increasingly rapid rates of change in the Antarctic and the potential that the changes in the Antarctic have for the rest of the planet. That is melting ice and rising sea levels, changing heat distribution around the planet, and through changing ecosystems that underpin the food web. So just small challenges that we have in front of us. SCAR also has an important role to play in taking the science that all of you do, and we do in the SCAR programs, to the Antarctic Treaty and the decision makers around Antarctica and wider into the policy forum to help get some action and response to the work we all do. SCAR does it partly through supporting scientific research programs to address the issues, and in particular with relevance to this conference, as you already saw on the board, the instant instabilities and thresholds in the Antarctica program, which we collaborate with the WCRP on aspects of. So the other thing that SCAR does, and we really are putting more and more energy into, and so should we, is encouraging early career researchers in equity and diversity in our programs. And it's great to see today the early career research workshop happening here to help build that community, and I look forward to contributing to that. And just lastly, I'd like to just have a little bit of a ploy for the fact that SCAR is revisiting its horizon scan, something we did probably a decade ago or more now, and we encourage all of you to feed into that process. And our first step is to get the message back from scientists, policymakers, politicians, about what worries them and you with respect to Antarctica. We then plan to hold a workshop at our Open Science Conference in Oslo later this year to investigate then what science we need to do to address those worries. So we're turning it slightly on its head from last time. It's still the most important science we have to do, but it's very much focused on impact. That first survey is online. Many of you will have had a link to engage. If you haven't, please, those of you that have, share that link around. It's not exclusive. We want to hear from as many people as we can. So with that, let me welcome you once again. Have a fantastic week. Your work is indeed vital. It's vital to SCAR. That's why we're happy to be here co-sponsoring, and I look forward to engaging with many of you during the week. Kia ora tātou again. Have a good week.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. SCAR has been a very strong partner of the WCRP for a number of years now, and we look forward to continuing that. Okay, and so now it comes to the co-chairs of CliC, just to say a few words to actually officially welcome you. The Minister has opened the conference, and I'd like to invite the co-chairs of CliC, Professor Amy Lovecraft from the University of Fairbanks, Alaska, and Professor Ed Hanna from the University of Lincoln, to say a few words. Ed and Amy, welcome.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here, and I am a resident in Alaska at the pleasure of Alaska's Indigenous people, the first people in Alaska, and I just want to extend my gratitude to the first people here in New Zealand for having us on their land. Welcome, and we're just going to set the stage. If you could go ahead and put the next slide up. So we just have a few, 4 messages, we'll keep it short, setting off the conference and giving you an idea of what we in CliC have drilled down to some of the most important points to carry through the conference. So Ed, please.
Thank you, Amy. So my name's Edward Hanna, so I'm one of the co-chairs of the scientific steering group of CliC. I would like to thank the Minister and all our other distinguished guests, and especially also the local welcome from the Maori, the Indigenous community. So thank you very much for all of that, and thank you to everyone for having travelled so far, in many cases, a large part of the world to get here. I think it's really important that we're having this conference in New Zealand on this occasion. So thank you very much again to our local hosts as well. So we're actually marking the 30th anniversary of the Climate and Cryosphere project. So it was inaugurated or started in 1996, and since then there have been many changes in the cryosphere and its links with the global climate system. So such as, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list, breaking off of Antarctic ice shelf, so the Larsen ice shelf, or part of it, in the early 2000s, and continuation of breakup of bits of Antarctica around the edges of the ice shelves, but also some, for example, dramatic changes in sea ice in both the Arctic, which really started I would say in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, and then more recently the Antarctic sea ice seems to have reached some kind of critical threshold, although it's a bit early to tell the significance of those very dramatic reductions. But there does seem to be some potential tipping point with Antarctic sea ice in the Southern Ocean more recently. And similarly with the ice sheets, we've seen some very dramatic events with the Greenland ice sheet as well as with the Antarctic ice sheet. So for example, rapid melting events of the Greenland ice sheet that have covered almost the entire surface of Greenland in the last 15 years. So hand in hand with those that climate warming that is obviously seriously affecting the cryosphere all around the world, we're actually seeing some surprising changes in extreme events and variability of the cryosphere, which were not necessarily predicted by models, ice sheet models, for example, or sea ice models, or the global climate models 20 or 30 years ago. So how do we respond to these increasing unexpected changes in extreme events and also in variability? So moving forward, the models are getting better, but they seem also at the same time to be uncovering new sources of uncertainty as well. So it's very difficult to reduce the overall uncertainty in projections, yet reducing uncertainty is critically important for managing impacts of these cryospheric changes on society. So the real challenge seems to be to improve the models to a level where we can reduce that uncertainty. But in order to do that, we need improved observations and also improved process understanding of the things that are happening to our cryosphere and its interactions with the climate system. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone again and pass back over to Amy for the final point.
Thanks, Ed. And so obviously one of the things we need alongside modeling are increased local and Indigenous observations. We need to fill all the gaps to be able to understand what is happening and to prepare for the surprises so that we can prioritize life and health across all beings. The last point is simply that in order to do this, we've got to make science more accessible to a broader range of end users and the interested public. And I recognize, as standing before you as an American citizen, these are very trying times, given what's happening in my country. But at the same time, these messages can resonate, and hopefully you all can carry us through the next few years, and we'll get ourselves righted. And so the first thing is that we've got to have access to science outcomes for decision making. And this isn't just access to people who make decisions, right? It's access to those of us who vote decision makers into office. So enhancing the ability for people who have busy, complicated lives to be able to understand the key messages and to know whether or not their elected officials or those running for office are going to help with this situation. Secondly, right, we need to ensure, and many of you have done this, right? We can elevate Finland and some of the Scandinavian countries, New Zealand, to an extent, right? But we need to continue and push for access to quality and affordable education so that you can study climate. And that doesn't just mean climate, but all the associated pieces, right? So the cryosphere is large, in the sense that so many frozen places exist on the Earth. It's diminishing, but we need all our different kinds of resources to think through, right? Cultural artifacts will be revealed, but also diseases may come to the fore. So we need a broad swath of people working together, and that requires, right, a consistent educational system. And lastly, right, we need to think about these things holistically. So while Ed, of course, is a world-renowned geoscientist, I come from the social sciences, but I work with geophysical and natural scientists. And we need to put together these pieces so that we're able to understand what operational choices are needed and what sort of rule sets we want to adopt in our countries to ensure that there is an ability to be cold and that the services and the values, right, tied with cryospheric components, you could say the glaciers, right, the beauty of the sea ice, all of these things. I'm grateful for my Alaska colleagues to be here on the stage, and the people who rely most on the cryosphere, right, are the ones that we need to listen to and to attend to as well. So thank you very much for being here. Find me at any time in the conference. I'm super excited, so come grab some of my energy if you need it, and thank you all again for being here. Ed, too, of course, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed and Amy. We're all excited, and yeah, great comments. So once again, we'd just like to acknowledge our valued sponsors and thank them. And I think that concludes the opening ceremony. So just one last time, I'd really like to thank our invited guests and speakers on the stage for their really important and insightful comments. Thank you.